During your time at LSU, you played with a big name in Angel Reese. What was it like to play with Angel, who not obviously was a great player for LSU, but also someone who brought that attention? Because that's different than here in Australia.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I know I probably might get a lot of hate for this, but to me, she's one of the reasons, actually, the main reason why women's basketball changed. Like that year that we won it changed everything because of how she spoke out vocally about certain situations. But obviously, going back to your question, I think playing with her, she was the person that intensity, and I loved playing with Angel. Like, oh, I wish I could play with her again.
So those comments were from Last Tier Poa, who was a teammate of Angel Reese's at LSU. Now, that's a major statement that she made, and she even prefaced her comments by saying she knows she's going to get a lot of hate for the comments or a lot of backlash for the comments that she made. And she made these comments all the way back in July, but for some reason, I just found those comments. I think they popped up on a feed that I was watching or something, but um, her statements about Angel Reese being the reason for more eyes on women basketball and for the growth of women basketball today, I think has a lot of merit to it. Now, I say women's basketball in general because this started when Angel Reese was in college at LSU on her championship run, of course, and it led all the way to the WNBA because people followed her and Caitlin Clark to the WNBA. So that transition went over. But women's basketball were starting to improve before then, just didn't get a lot of attention because several reasons, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. An obvious reason that most people know about, but I believe that Last Tier Poa's comments are true for several reasons. But the biggest reason is the climate of the country, where it is now and where it was back then, and where it's been for probably the last 12 years or so, I want to say. Well, probably going all the way back to 2008, probably. Um, because you remember this country was always built on racial dynamics. It's always built on those type of optics. So when something has a good, bad, evil to it, there's always going to be a price tag associated with. It's always going to bring eyeballs. It's always going to bring criticism. It's always going to bring hatred. It's always going to bring controversy. And this was no different after the recent leadership changes over the last, couple decades or so. This has been highlighted even more. So the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark dynamic uh, fed into that narrative of what the climate of America was at the time and still is today. So it still creates that divide, and we know divide creates sales, it creates revenue for these companies, especially in sports where it's very competitive and it's very um, divisive because there's always this is my team, this is your team, but this is the side I'm picking, this side you're picking. And a lot of times or sometimes it's not even about sports, it's about politics. And this became a political tug of war, so to speak, between perceived good and perceived bad, which I don't think there was one or other in the fight, but then, people made it that way. Media coverage turned out that way, and it just became that thing. I mean, they became in between it, but then unfortunately, fortunately, women's basketball got more eyes on it, and thus ultimately creating more revenue, creating more stability for these players that work hard every day. But without that false narrative of Angel Reese being the bad guy and um, Caitlin Clark being the good guy, um, there is no legend of Caitlin Clark to be created. There is no WNBA, CBA that's in place right now that's being argued. They don't have the leverage without it because they created this narrative to sell more. And it just happened to happen at the right time, especially in a college league where you have this Midwestern team against this Southern team. So you have this tug of war, like I said, between the good and evil. So in order to create that revenue, you have to create a storyline because you can't sell a movie or you can't sell entertainment without a storyline. And before it was just good, great basketball, good, great athletes, um, great sportsmanship and things like that. But you didn't have anything to attach to that could sell. And to get the common fan to come over to watch women play in such a misogynistic world, you have to be able to have some kind of drama to sell. You have to have some kind of reality TV. And this Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark thing became reality TV, a mess for people to watch, a perceived beef that the media created. Now it's all about competition, and of course they want to play hard and they want to beat each other. But at the end of the day, they made it something more than what it was, and this is what it created. So without the Angel Reese controversy, you don't have Caitlin Clark, you know, um, with the Nike deal and the Nike shoe, the Hy-Vee advertisements. Well, actually, she might have had that one because of the ties that Iowa has to Hy-Vee, them being founded there. But you don't have the State Farm or the Gatorade commercials. You don't have, you just have a great athlete making 70K a year. You don't have all of these ancillary things that she got along with being a superstar and having that narrative behind her. You don't even have her hanging out with Taylor Swift, which I believe her and Taylor Swift relationship is more than just being famous. They are more alike more than you think. Now, Taylor Swift's stardom rose after Kanye West made her the good girl and he became the bad guy because he interrupted her speech to say that Beyonce should have had album of the year, similar to Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark became the good girl after Angel Reese did the "You Can't See Me" in her face, and she was perceived as classless and unsportsmanlike. So those are similarities that Taylor Swift and Angel Reese have, and their relationship makes a lot more sense if you think it from that aspect. Because I can see Taylor Swift reaching out and saying, hey, I same thing kind of happened to me. I got showed up on my biggest moment, and you know, we were done wrong. That is the narrative that is created to push them up to superstardom. And that's kind of like the formula to get most people up to that superstardom. You have to have a moment that embarrassed you or a moment that was unfair to you, and then you get pushed up to the next level. This situation is definitely no different. So they needed Angel Reese to be the villain and Caitlin Clark to be the angel to save the day in women's sports. So last year, Pora's comments are very on point and very on brand. She didn't elaborate to this degree, but I think she was saying that Angel Reese's personality and her persona and her all around athletic ability led people to look at this way, because without that rivalry, you don't have this. It was the Magic Bird dynamic. Of course, Magic was seen as the bad guy, Larry Bird was seen as the good guy, and you had to create that dynamic for America to latch on to it. But it created superstars, it created stability, it created a whole new league that is a multi-billion dollar business today. It was on the downside, similar to what the WNBA was, but it created jobs and it created even more teams that the WNBA is building now. So it's great to see. But and if you don't think that Caitlin Clark could have did this without the Angel Reese, think about all the great college players before her that didn't get this accolades, that had better stats and had better accomplishments, i.e., a Breanna Stewart, who won 4 national championships with 4 most most outstanding players of the year awards for those tournaments. So just phenomenal stuff, unheard of. It's not many people that's done that. I'm not sure if anybody else has ever done that. Candace Parker, she had 2 national championships and 2 MOPs. Maya Moore, 2 national championships and 2 national players of the year. Diana Taurasi, 3 national championships and 2 MOPs. But these were all great players, considered greatest players of all time in college and WNBA. But they didn't have a bad guy to attach to them, or they didn't have that narrative along to elevate them to the next level. Otherwise, the WNBA would probably be close to what the NBA is now. So You do need that villain role, and Angel Reese always said she would be the bad guy for the betterment of the league, and she's able to carry that and not pout about it, but just say, "Hey, I'll be the bad guy if it means we make more money, we get more stability, we get guaranteed jobs, we get benefits, we get health," um, which is the essence of a true leader and a true game changer. So tell me your thoughts about last tier points, comments. And until next time, see you next time.